Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv after a exciting week. And CJ, I have to compliment you. Your weekend flush is always really good, but obviously the issues concerned things that are obviously important to me, but you did a very good job of breaking down what that fiasco at the council meeting uh, was. And you were right, they were thoroughly prepped to just say, is it legal? Is it legal? And they said, yes, it is legal. But really, is it legal? If you had enough money to really push this all the way, and I don't know if we'll ever have it, but we will prove that they acted in bad faith, as you said. Those two people focused on it's legal. It is legal for a mayor to make an appointment if there's a legitimate problem that you can't select a board member. Number one, they fired a board member who had been on the board for 26 years. Arthur Viana had been on that board for 26 years. The city had voted for him for 26 years. And then because he wouldn't give them the money, they canned him. And I'm going to get the minutes, and we're going to pursue this to say that this individual was fired with no discussion. Now, what would a normal person think about does that not pass the smell test? You have an individual who's been working for you for 26 years. And he didn't go rob a bank. He didn't embezzle money. He did the same thing he'd been doing for 26 years. Be the fifth member of the board. But he wouldn't give Paul his money. So his two cronies just said no, which the memo clearly states you can't do. You can't say no just for the sake of doing it. It got to renewing the man's appointment, and we did our job. I nominated him for reappointment, and Jim Machado seconded that motion. There was no debate, not a reason that they were going to vote no, and it just went yes, yes, no, no. They knew it. Start the clock. And then we had another individual with a resume to knock your socks off, involved in a retirement system fundamentally his entire life, still working in a retirement system. Didn't consider him either to give it to the mayoral appointment. Now I ask you, as reasonable people, do convinctions that were based on a confession that was beat out of an individual holed up in court? No. Do convictions that were made because they had evidence that was tainted, or as I tried to say at that meeting, the fruit of the poisonous tree, they got those things illegally? Well, they did not do their job. We illegally got to the point of the mayor making the appointment. Does the law state that the mayor makes the appointment? Yes, it does. But it says fundamentally only in the case where there were no other options, where there were no qualified candidates. So we're not one, there were two. We could have rehired the individual who had been there for 26 years, or we could have hired the new guy. And they did exactly what it said in that memo, and you said in your weekend flush. They abdicated their authority. And the city council worked in collusion. And the only one that focused on that was Michelle Dion. And kudos to Michelle, as always, the champion of the people. And the rest of that council were nothing more than shills for the mayor. And listen, I got nothing against Nick Chris. I didn't even know the guy until the day after that council meeting. I met him. He seems like a personable guy. I'm sure he's competent at his job, but it's not the point. Nick, Chris, or any other person, it's not about him. It's about the process. I would oppose anybody that Coogan put up because he shouldn't have been the person to make the appointment. That's the problem. And to have Cliff Ponty, the previous meeting, already kissing ass. Oh, Mr. Chris is eminently qualified. He's qualified to a degree. He knows finance. He can interpret the numbers. But he doesn't know Chapter 32, the retirement law. He's going to learn it now, on the job. And he will, because I think he's a credible enough individual to do his job and want to do it correctly. And hopefully he will. But that's not the point. He was not the best qualified. As a matter of fact, the individual that we had was more qualified than a guy we had for 26 years. And obviously, in 26 years, that individual learned a lot more about the system and how it works. But this is bullshit. These counselors just, I mean, I don't know, they must have, make sure they have a makeup artist wipe all the brown stains off their face from kissing a mayor's ass all the time. But I'm telling you, they need to go. And you really articulated it well in the weekend flush. I always encourage people to read CJ's flush because it's always good. But this one really was on point, and it's something that it's not going to go away. We're not going to let this go. Put that back to you.
It's interesting some of the things that are going on. Mr. X made some interesting comments earlier. This one here, he's been seeing the theme Watergate 2.0 circulating. Coogan's new policy position regarding water is starting to infuriate the people over the top now. And that's very true. And we spoke about that on our show last week. And we all know what took Nixon down, only this time Coogan's Watergate 2.0 involves actual water. And we brought this up at the last one of the last shows. Fall River's own Watergate 2.0. Have you had enough Fall River? Impeach Nixon. Impeach Coogan is more like it. So it makes for an interesting time to see this. And it's nice to see that people are actually paying attention. The problem is not enough people are paying attention. If you get the weekend flush, share it with your family, your friends, and tell them to subscribe so they get their own copy. This way they can read it regularly because it's some very interesting information that I put in there. I put in some interesting quotes. I mean, and it's not always bad. It really isn't always bad. Lately, it's been a little jilted, but it's not always bad. But we need to have people who hold politicians accountable. We need to hold their feet to the fire. And when you get people like Cliff Ponty who turn around and don't do that, and as Chip said, they're wiping the brown off their lips, this is how you know what's going on. I mean, we've seen the brown has been on Laura Sampson's face for so long. It's just there. You can't wipe it off. You can't bleach it off. It's just there. I mean, this proves that we don't have a council that represents us. Now, what was very interesting was I had a conversation over the weekend with somebody about another counselor, Counselor Paul Hart, and they asked me, "Is he stupid? He says nothing. He says nothing. And when he does open his mouth, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Why? Why bother opening your mouth? I don't know. Do you know, Paul? Do you know? I mean, honestly, do you know? I mean, Paul Hart really needs to know what's going on before he opens his mouth.
But he
Remember, there's an
does.
old
He
saying.
does, CJ. Because he just calls up the mayor, like Laura Sampson, and asks him, what do I say today? And um, and by the way, the weekend flush did also cover the water issue.
That's right.
So the thing is that you know you can people can disagree with what we talk about and write about and do things, but we're talking about real issues that matter to the people. And we don't have any problem somebody having an opinion opposite to us, but prove it. When we talk about things, we can prove it. We have proof. We have data for things. The water. Let's really get into that water, because you're right, Mr. Ricks. A lot of people are really getting pissed off, and justifiably so. They actually had those eight clowns, absent the only person who talks about the people, were sitting there enraptured by this presentation of how to screw the taxpayers of Fall River. How to make you pay for more water even if you don't use it. To devise a plan to get rich by selling water, the new Fall River business. Debt overrides, 2.5 overrides, unnecessary costs. I gotta ask a question. I was thinking about that at length. And I remember some of that presentation. They're talking about water and the scarcity, and it's how it's a real, they're from that water cabal that was trying to take over the world's water and hold everybody hostage. Well, they're going to hold Fall River hostage, telling you you're going to pay more. But let me ask you something, CJ. Don't we have our own water here? Last time I checked, we got our own water source. Not only do we have our own water source, we sell the freaking stuff to other communities.
And we sell it at a discount rate compared to other communities.
That's right. But we're going to pay more for our own water. That makes a lot of sense. Tell the councilors how bullshit this is. Make your voice known.
The thing that gets me is that they're willing to list this as a revenue stream for Fall River. They're making it a revenue stream. It shouldn't. It should break even each time. Okay? It should break even. It shouldn't be a revenue stream. It's a natural resource, and we should be able to have our water ourselves. We should be able to have our water ourselves. But we don't. Somebody else has it. And that's the sad part about it. Our water should not be a revenue stream. And we have more water than most communities do in this state. We have it coming from everywhere. Copacabana Reservoir, we have the Watapa, we have the north and south Watapa. So we've got plenty of water. It's just a matter of where we get it from and how we maintain it. The expensive part of the water for Fall River is all the chemicals they've got to dump into it, which I don't know why. I mean, Quabbin doesn't have to dump anything into their water, and their water's fine. So what are they doing right that we're not?
You're right, CJ, but let's look at this objectively now. You just hit a great point. We know we've got great water sources. And you said we sell this to our surrounding communities at a discount rate. Well, why doesn't Fall River do what these people said they were trying to get? Charge them a fair market price.
Nelson
and reduce our water costs. You realize what these people are telling you, taxpayers. We're going to give everybody around us cheaper water at a discount rate, and now we're going to adopt a plan to charge you more for the water when it's our water. Because we're going to make this a business. Water is a natural resource, and as you said, there are very few communities as fortunate as Fall River. We have great water reserve. As a matter of fact, many years ago, Fall River was classified as having some of the best drinking water in the United States. That's no longer true. And now they have all kinds of guidelines about water purifications and stuff. But listen, this should be something that's given to the public at the minimum cost to us. It's our water. We own it. Granted, we have to pay to process it, but we sell it. But we're going to sell it at a discount price to other people while we charge the people of Fall River and the taxpayers more money. This is unconscionable. It's nuts. That's right. Yeah, no, it's right. It's going to give him a lot of problems. It is going to give him a lot of problems because this is just, I mean, listen, it's bad enough when they just keep abusing the people of Fall River by just piling more and more debt. Debt overrides, 2.5 overrides. And I have the minutes of that meeting where the CFO said that everything they've passed in the last fundamentally year or two, they can't afford. When they're obligated by law to have a balanced budget and to only approve expenditures that can be funded. But they didn't do that. So now we're going to pay. We're going to pay. Like Friedman said, give the government the Sahara Desert. They'll run out of sand in 5 years. There'll be a sand shortage. These people will never stop spending until you make them stop spending. When Paulie Pockets proposes that 2.5 override, vote for an underride. They try to raise your water rates. Call every city councilor. Get onto the city website. Every single councilor's telephone number is on there. Call them. Express your outrage. Tell them this is bullshit at the highest order. They never stop abusing us. They never ever stop. All they know how to do is tell us to pay more money while all their friends get richer, all their friends get the pay raises, and they put us into the poorhouse. And I like the quote that you started the weekend flush with, because I'll tell you what, if there was, I have never seen a more appropriate quote that could be applied to Fall River. The law, which they never abide by when it doesn't suit them, in its majestic equality, forbids rich and poor alike to sleep under bridges, to beg in the streets, and to steal their bread. Anatole France. That's a great quote. You're right. We are not supposed to do this. We've lived in this country, worked our life, our whole life, to be treated like this, while our council at our city makes us secondary to their insane spending, and our state treats people who never worked a day in this country better than they treat us. They get debit cards. They get hotel rooms. They get health care. They get motor scooters. They get everything they want at our expense. And next year, when it's not election year, they are going to rape us. You are going to see 9C cuts up the wazoo. You think it's bad now? Paulie's already trying to kill us. Wait till we get massive 9C cuts. I mean, you got to stop the bleeding, people. I mean, we got to stop the bleeding. We got to get these people out. I mean, I think I think that the R word, which is almost as bad, you know, as the F word, and I'm not speaking about the the four-letter F word. I'm talking about the F word that is responsible for accountability and accounting. But something's got to be done. This city is we're going down a rabbit hole now. He doesn't care. I know he's not going to run for a a fourth term because he might get lynched before he's out of office. And he may be bounced out of office before his term ends. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back to you because this is listen, I've seen nutty. You and I have been involved in politics in this city for a very, very long time.
Sometimes too long.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I think too long. But I'm going to tell you something. I have seen nutty, but this is nutty to the infinite power. I mean,
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like this. This is just batshit crazy. And
I wouldn't even insult a fruitcake with it. Okay. Oh, somebody's swearing. Somebody's swearing. Oh no, somebody's swearing. Thank you, Michelle. You swore. I didn't. But the interesting thing about the water rates is it's a 23% increase or more this year. Okay, 23%. That's a lot. But they've already planned for the increases for the next 5 years. 5% a year. Whether we need it or not. 5% a year. And remember, that compounds itself. So if this year it goes up 67 cents and next year it goes up 5% more, and then the year after that, it goes 5% more on top of the 5% that went on top of the 67%, which was a 23%. I mean, it just keeps adding up. It's like your bank account. You put the money in the bank, and they keep giving you more and more interest, even on the interest you've earned. It's like a credit card. The bank keeps adding interest to that credit card debt, causing you to pay more. It's the same thing that's going to happen with the water and sewer rates. $8, $8.11 per CCF. That's 758 gallons of water. $8.11 per CCF. For sewage. That's not even for water. That's for sewage. And they were so sneaky about how they were going to pass this through. They sent it to ordinance. They didn't even list in the item the current cost of water, just like there'll be a 67% increase. They wanted to confuse the people.
Well, CJ, apparently they think we're really, really stupid. And I'm going to tell you something. They should know by now I'm pretty good with numbers. They're giving you 23%. So let's just, with multiplier principle, let's figure it's going to be like 25%. So 25% is 5 years worth of 5% increases. I mean, anybody can do that. Well, maybe not with the way our schools teach math now. Maybe they can't do that anymore. I don't know. But that's 5 years worth of 5% increases in 1 year. And now when you get that other 5% for the next 5 years, there's a multiplier principle involved. Because now you're getting 5% on a drastically increased base. Maybe that's a little too hard for most of these yo-yos in the council to understand. What we're doing is they're giving us like a 12-year average 5% increase. That means for the next 12 years, your bill, you'll never, ever see a stable bill. It's going to go up every year no matter what. And that's wrong. And you know what I smell on this one? A 10 taxpayer suit. I would sue. I think that we should look at suing the city council, filing complaints with the Department of Revenue. They are violating their fiduciary obligation. Who the hell are they to charge us? We don't care. We don't care. If we only increase our costs by 1%, we are going to charge you 5%. We don't care if next year our costs went up 15%, we're charging you 23%. And we're going to keep charging you that. And we don't care. That's what they're saying. We don't care. Yeah, you're right. Sounds like Nelson has it, and I'm sure Nelson is on it. And there are communities, by the way, and I'm sure that when we have this, and I know there will be a presentation coming at the city council, and I know that we will have the presenter on our show after that presentation. But I mean, listen, look at the insanity that we're looking at. What are these people telling you? That they don't give a damn about you. Just pay, shut up, and go away. Just shut up and go away. Pay your bills or go live under a bridge. Pay your bills or go jump in the Taunton River. Pay your bills or move out of town. Because we don't care about you. You know, nobody knows that we've got one of the lowest per capita and household incomes in the state. I can guarantee you there are communities in this state that don't pay more, that haven't had massive increases in their water bills. Isn't it ironic that they always talk about the gateway city, which is a euphemism for the poor cities? They always screw the poorer cities. You think they would stand for this in Newton or Wellesley? Or other communities? Like this? Try it. The rich are rich because they pay attention to their money. They're not going to let you steal their money. They're not going to let you overtax. I mean, let's look across to Westport. I mean, it's not Newton or Wellesley or some of these other really rich towns, but their household income is nearly double Fall River's. What happens in Westport if they tried this shit? There would be a town meeting. There'd be a riot at the town meeting. They'd never get away with this stuff. These people are insane. I mean, they think nothing of us. They don't care about us. And it's time for an uprising. You all right? And for all our contributors, we really appreciate you guys, weighing in on this, because it's going to, the voices of the people have to be heard, and it's going to take people like you to contact your friends, to contact their friends, to contact people and spread the word again about what's happening. We can't wait till it's too late. We may have to really consider a 10 taxpayer suit if they pull this. And we should have a near riot during the budget process over this, because they deserve it. I have never seen anything so blatantly disregard the good of the people of Fall River and the taxpayer. They just said, like that illegal did when he came out of the courtroom? The double finger. Here, America, here's the double finger. You're giving me, you're paying for all my bills, and I committed a crime, and I just got released with no bail. Double finger to you. Well, they're giving us 4. 2 fingers and 2 toes. We're getting the 2 middle fingers and the 2 middle toes from our elected officials, and until we make them give a shit, they will not give a shit. And with that, back to you, CJ.
You know, the thing that gets me is if you watched that city council meeting, Michelle Dion asked a very specific question of one of the consultants, which, by the way, we still don't know how much we paid for those consultants. Um, and that question was, if we had taken $20 million of ARPA funds and put it into the water department for infrastructure, would that have resulted in lower water rates? And the gentleman answered honestly, which I appreciated. He says, I honestly couldn't tell you that because I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't have the research. He said, but what would happen, I believe, is you would see a reduction in debt service. Debt service is a fixed number for the water department and the sewer department. That's what they pay every year to pay off the loans for all the bonds they've taken out. Debt service equals water rates. So if your debt service is reduced, your water rate would probably be reduced. Doesn't that make sense? But no, Paul couldn't give Michelle the $20 million. Instead, we're going to give $2 million to a boxing school. And it's not that I don't like boxing. It's not that I don't like kids. But we've got to prioritize and make things right. And maybe we will learn this with a new mayor someday, somehow.
Let's hope so. But CJ, let me get back to your point. The guy answered honestly. No, he didn't. Listen, if he can make a presentation of like that, he's not so dumb he can't figure out what you just said. Listen, the debt service is a bill we have to pay. If we reduce our amount of debt, it costs less to run that department. I.e., in other words, it will cost less for us to fund that department. It's not rocket science. I hate to tell you this, people. It's not, these people in the council, it makes you wonder if they have a functioning brain cell. Did they all visit Washington and catch the disease Biden's got? That they can't do anything without somebody telling them what to say? He reads off cards. They call the mayor and say, what should we say today? And maybe Cliff Ponte was looking into the future when he said this vote may cost us re-election. Well, it should. Hopefully it will. Because go do something you really care about. Build your financial empire. And good for you. Congratulations on your success. But extend the courtesy to the people of Fall River of not involving yourself in Fall River business if you're not going to work for the people. That's about as simple as I can say it to you, Cliff. When it was more important for you to move your office like you needed to be there. You can't afford to get your office moved. As an excuse not to listen to the reality of what you were going to vote on when the mayor made this appointment was nothing more than a cowardly way of backing out, so not later on you could say, well, I didn't know all these things. Well, you did know all these things, and you should know all these things. If you don't want to work for the people, go do whatever the hell you want to do. Go build your financial empire. Go to some other community and rape it. But don't run. Don't even run. Save us the problem. Let's get some people in there who care about the people. Let's start electing people who actually have to work for a living. Let's start electing people who understand the plight of the average person. and will prioritize the people, which is, by the way, their constitutional oaths. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back to.
It's very interesting. Fall River is definitely up for something that's gonna happen, and people will see when it happens that it's gonna be not a pleasant surprise. It's going to be a very big surprise, and it won't be very pleasant. When you sit there in the city council chamber and you're supposed to represent the people, but you think it's better to represent yourself, I have a problem. I have a big problem. And we go through this all the time. The sewer and water rate increase discussion is happening this week. That is happening on, I believe it's the 5th. Let me see here. Here we are. No, it's in 2 days. It's on the 3rd at 5 o'clock at Government Center. Please be sure you go and make your voice be heard. Share with your friends to let their voice be heard, because they're going to send this to the city council after this meeting with the increases, unless your voice is heard. So be sure to say something, because if you don't say anything and they approve it, don't bitch. So many people bitch and they don't do anything about it. They don't vote, but they bitch. They don't speak up about the taxes, but they bitch. They don't speak up about the water, but they bitch. Bitch, 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 bitch. If you don't vote, you can't complain. If you're not heard, you can't complain. It's time for the people to rise up and take back your government, take back your right, take back your money. It's your money, not theirs. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a happy April Fool's Day. Bye bye.